Can you believe it's already been 3 months since the last time we put out a tier list? So much has happened in Snap in the last couple of months that it just kind of feels like it's almost overdue, but not overdue, just because a lot's happened. So I don't know. I just know that I wanted to redo the tier list system a bit. So I sat down, I went through the categories again, really thought about what I want to portray as a conversation to the community about how you look at cards. So whether it's a Series 5 list, a Series 4 list, a Series 3 list, whatever it is, it's about what the quality of the card is, so that way you can decide if it's worth the investment of the resource. Because Series 5 cards, you know, whether it's a collector's pack or it's a brand new card and it's a little more expensive because it's new and you're hoping to get it, I wanted to find a balance in the system that made sense made more sense than the last one. So I settled on this, and these are the 8 categories that you can now view as a card. So it's the must-owns. This is the straight up like top tier, have it, plug and play, get it everywhere, just absolute best of the best go up there. Smart buys, pretty straightforward. I mean, smart buys are exactly as they say, they're smart buys. Are they plug and play to every single deck? Not quite as much as the must-owns, not quite as much, but still incredibly solid buys. The reliable winners is about consistency, about it's going to always do the thing. Does it always fit into every deck? Even less. Then you've got your archetype specialists. The easiest one I can use as a right off the bat example is Arishem. An Arishem deck is an Arishem deck. That goes in there, right? Then this was the area I didn't really feel satisfied with last time, so we redid it. This is the matchup patch dependent for fun, not rank. So these 3 categories are cards that are looking at different metas at different moments. For example, matchup cards is you're looking at going into the Golden Gauntlet and you want a specific card, knowing the meta that you're going into. This is a card that you play really only in that moment, maybe a little less on ladder. Versus patch dependent, which is this card comes and goes depending on the releases as well as the patches. For example, you have an Affliction card that comes on out, Luke Cage comes to play all the time. That kind of stuff, right? For fun, not rank, these are your flavor cards. These are the not the best cards, but when you get them to do the thing they're supposed to do, man, it's really, really cool and really awesome and fun. But they're just not competitive regularly. And then there's just skip, because skip. So let's go, okay? I'm just gonna plow through it because we have a lot more Series 5 cards now. We have a lot more Series 5 cards than we did because there haven't been any series drops yet. Second dinner, you said it was a maybe. I'd like you to push the maybe thing a little more, okay? And yes, to all of those people who are gonna analyze out there, some of the images are older stats, but you know what the card is, okay? You get it? We cool? All right, we got the idea. Let's go. Agamotto. Agamotto's regularly a card you build around, but at the same time, it's pretty flexible. I mean, there's a lot of different archetypes for it. A lot of werewolf stuff has recently been seeing a little more Agamotto play. I've been seeing some Nicholas get thrown in a little more, so he's between these two. I don't think he's a smart buy, but he is pretty consistent. When there is the right meta for him, he's very consistent, so I like him there. Agent Venom. You don't make an Agent Venom deck. Technically, you think of it more like a Bast or a Bounce or a... I think if you're building that specific style of deck, he's good, but the only reason you're playing that deck is because you're trying to solve a problem. You're trying to solve a problem in the meta, and the small cards packages are doing it. You know, the Bounce type archetypes, right? You're not worried about seeing a ridiculous amount of Sandman, for example. I know, you don't see him very often, but you get the idea of what I'm saying. Ajax... He's another one where I kind of feel like he's not a reliable winner, but he is what really helps to define the Affliction package more than anybody else, in my opinion. Like, you kind of need him in a lot of the Affliction decks. So I'm gonna call him a specialist for now. Eliath, now we're getting up here. I don't think he's a must own, because you don't plug and play him into everything, but he's a really good own. He's something you almost always want to think about as a, hey, I need a 6-drop. You think Eliath. So I would put him into more decks than Agamotto, definitely. Anti-Venom, I'm gonna lean into matchup, because if it's not the meta for Luke Cage, he can swing things tremendously. But I think more so on ladder than head-to-head. So I'd say I'll put him down here. Aranya. I mean, you're only ever playing Aranya in move decks of any capacity. Tough one, tough one, tough one. Okay, we'll start there. Because there's too many cards that define meta more so. I think it's a little lower. Ares, this is a patch card. This is a card that when you can get away with having big card on 4 with no concern, he's a relevant card. Like right now, at the time of recording this is a more relevant card, but I don't think he's anything up here above that. Arishem archetype. We already talked about that. Baron Zemo. See, now we're getting into the world of Mill, where Mill is very often looked more like as a package rather than an archetype nowadays. I've seen more Zemo kind of splashed in, especially in Wiccan decks. It's pretty nice, but kind of is the card that made Mill Mill. Black Swan, man, I mean, when you make the big thing happen with Black Swan, it's great, but you never plan for it. It's never your primary play line. It's just the one drops always have felt weak. Blink, part of me wants to say patch dependent because it really depends on the relevance of Stardust. Yeah, I like that better because it's not a card that you use to tech out. Bruce Banner, I mean, I would love to say he's up here, but he's just straight up not. Float metas, I think it's a decent card in the Invisible Woman First Steps decks, but it's not a necessary card because it's not guaranteed versus something like a Havoc where you know exactly what the power output's going to be for 2. Benefit is you just drop that earlier. Bullseye, I mean, I want to say he's an archetype specialist. I mean, as a discard package, he's insane, but I don't think that he's the only thing that defines discard. If anything, I think he's, for the discard decks he's used in, the win condition. You have him, chances are you win. So he's pretty reliable in that aspect. Kyera, that's definitely patch dependent because if we're all of a sudden in a meta that needs destroy elements, you know, lots of Shang-Chis, lots of Killmongers, then you run a Kyera for protection. So it's very, very dependent, but I don't think it's a 911. Captain Carter, I'm gonna put this in archetype specialists because she has 2 archetypes. She has a great ongoing synergy and a great surfer synergy. And you're almost always playing her in Surfer, and any kind of build that has also Mercury in it loves seeing Captain Carter Moonstone as an ongoing package. Like those 3 alone, just play as is. I'll leave it there. Cast Nova, okay. Going immediately into the smart buys and possibly higher. Cassandra Nova is just always a good card, and whenever there is an Arishem meta, it's a card you just play. But even if you don't, you drop it on 3, it's a 3/6, almost every time. And it's reliable, it's consistent, it's repeatable. It's just a stellar card. Clea, I'm gonna put this as patch dependent because I think Clea represents a really interesting case in looking at what is dependent in a patch versus what's just for fun. And Clea, she rides that border because when she does the thing, it's really good. You get all those Flames of the Faltine, it's a lot of extra power onto the board, well, removed from the board. The downside is that you're doing a hand buff thing and then kind of playing the hand buff thing off curve or the board buff thing off curve because you're always playing the Faltine as well, which is why the Werewolf package works for it too. So she has a nice synergy with Vivision. She has a nice synergy with Headpool, nice synergy, yeah, on the board with Marvel Boy, agreed. But you need her to survive and you need to have the board space. Like I'd play Clea decks over Black Swan decks any day. Copycat, like, this one's a tough one here. Copycat, you can pretty much play into any deck. I think it's the first of the must-owns. If you got Series 5 cards and you see a Copycat, I think you grab it. And you don't look back. Diamondback. This is a good one for the archetype thing we were talking about with Ajax, right? Is it a matchup or is it a patch dependent? I think it's a patch dependent because you play Affliction knowing Luke Cage is not on the board. Yeah, I'm gonna say that. Doom 2099. Look, I really want Doom 2099 to be a good card. I really do. He's fun because he creates simple play lines that you need to play into. However, he is just a waste of time. He's a waste of time and a waste of resources at this moment, in my opinion. He's just not worth it. You don't get enough out of him. He needs a buff. Dormammu archetype, absolutely. I mean, you build a Dormammu deck. You're building a deck that you're looking to destroy things repeatedly and then benefit from it. So, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Elixir. This is another one where I think it's for fun. I do think it's for fun. I think you play Elixir if you want to do the cheeky thing, but you don't depend on it being your win condition. It's always like the other plan that brings the element of surprise for the revival, because if you're banking on this card being your win condition, you've probably built a bad deck. Esme. Okay, so this one I'm also going to put into matchup because getting the draw for the consistency, depending on the deck, whether it's negative, whether it's Living Tribunal, Esme has homes, but they're also not necessary homes. So depending on what you know the meta is that you're going up against, and you need that consistency, you bring that into the piece. Essen, I think that's another fun one because you have to ramp it out to get benefit from it for more than one turn, and then it does the thing. It pulls the card. It's not even a targeted card. It's any created card in your hand. Just a random one by the end of the turn. You see some cool things with Helicarrier. You see some things, but I've always just felt like, you know? Fenris Wolf is a 3/4 now. And I mean, when you play it with the intent of using it, it's reliable. When you play it as a alternate win condition, it's not reliable. I'm not sure if it's here or here then. Since they brought it to a 3, I think they're gonna bring it into matchup. Feels pretty good. Firehair. So I'm gonna put Firehair down in patch dependent. A lot of people are gonna look at that and be like, are you crazy? Get all the double things to happen. Yeah, but it really depends on, are you able to get away with the things that you need it to do? Because a lot of the Firehair synergies are being put to rest right now because of Cosmic Ghost Rider's emergence into the game. It still gets hit very often with Red Guardian. And yes, it can do some cheeky extra duplications and, you know, multiplications as well. But I don't see it all the time because I don't think you can see it all the time, which means it's patch dependent. Frigga, reliable winner. I think that Frigga, it's either reliable or a smart buy because getting a second card is great. Plain and simple, getting a second card of a card that you target is absolutely great. It's just a matter of, I think it's less universal than Cassandra Nova and Eliath. It's right on that bullseye Agamotto, like you build into it a bit, but it makes you win card. Galacta is probably a must-own. Even at 4/5, I think Galacta, smart buy, must-own, like it's right up there. Because you can plug this as a 4, get minimum 9 power out of it, and you're very happy with that card. I'm gonna say smart buy. We'll leave it at smart buy. Galactus, he has his own archetype, plain and simple. Yeah, 8 power, sorry. Gilgamesh, okay, so Gilgamesh is a tough one because you want to say that he's the power play in Zoo, and he's really good in that shell, the blue Marvel boy piece, but I still see him cut quite often. If you need a tall option, he's your tall option for that deck. But he's not a patch yeah, he's more of a matchup card. He's more of a, I need this for this deck in this meta. He's had some cheeky plays in other metas, but I mean, Zoo is his main home. Goliath, reliable, plain and simple. You play an ongoing specialist deck in any way, you play that, you win. Like, it's a 2, 6, 7, 8, like crazy stats. Gore, another reliable winner in my opinion, not even just in the negative builds, but there are so many different builds that benefit from having big guy, and depending on the meta that we're in, he's even stronger. If it's a heavy combo meta, that means a lot of on reveals, which means he gets better. Gwenpool, also a smart buy. One of these two is probably gonna end up in the must-own. One of the two. I don't know which one yet. We'll come back to those because they're always in the conversation right now. Was the water bottle a birthday gift? No, I've had that. This is my big black Stanley. Herbie, he really wants to be good. Like, he's so close to being a really good card. There's a part of me that would like to see Herbie experimented with at 2/4. There's a part of me, because I think if you have to choose between Herbie and Nico, you choose Nico. That's what it comes down to. Okay, Taxi. Okay, hi. Can we not? All right, he's free now. Yeah, I want him to be up here. Ideally, I'd love to be him up here, see him up here, but as long as Nico is a 1/2, I mean, he's got to stay down here. High Evo is just an archetype in and of itself. I mean, it's an enabler of your basics. So plain and simple. Hope Summers. This is still a smart buy. I think it personally might be a must-own because it's just one of those cards that you always want to have in your back pocket. And every deck benefits from more energy. Every single deck. So I'm just looking at the Galacta, Gwenpool, Hope. Who would I rather have in my deck at any given point? And it's probably Galacta, but it's very close with Hope and Gwen. Emperor Hulkling, this is a for fun card. It's a cool card. It's a fun card. Competition-wise, in matchups, he's very good. Like in Conquest and in just like any kind of tournament setting, he's very good because of that variance. But in reality, I mean, he's got that variance. So, I mean, it's a cheeky play. That means he's for fun. Human Torch First Steps. This is a tough one because so many decks want to run him, and then the Surfer decks that do well, and then most other decks that don't run Surfer just kind of be like, all right, he's here, fill it up, maybe, sometimes, not always, I don't know. Like, it's a little too forecasted. I kind of feel like it wouldn't be a bad thing to see him worked on a little bit, but I'm gonna keep him down here for now. Hydra Bob, in my opinion, this is a must-own. I think every person needs Hydra Bob. A 1/4 is a 1/4. It's a move on an easy mechanic, has a lot of synergies. I think it's a no-brainer. Hydra Stomper, archetype specialist because you build a Hydra Stomper deck. You build around this card, and then it's like the first one you throw into the 12, and then you start figuring out the other pieces that activate it. That one's pretty straightforward. Infinity Ultron, I really want this to have its own tier. I do. Because I think Infinity Ultron wants to be as good as Dormammu, Galactus, Ivo, but it's still underperforming. Even with the reduction in the stones, it's still underperforming. And I think that's due to its power. I really do. However, as much as I would like to say that he is his own archetype, he's not. He's like flavor. That's it. He's just flavor. I don't think he's enough. He needs another point of power or a cost reduction, but we'll come back to him throughout another conversation. Iron Patriot right now, one of the best cards of the game, hands down. Hands down, still Iron Patriot. Even with the nerf of -3 instead of -4, he's still one of the best cards of the game. And you could make an argument that it's nerf worthy. You could make an argument for it. I don't know if I want to have that argument, but you could make one. Poor Jeff. I remember the day he was here. I remember the day that Jeff was right here, top of the list, best 2-drop and then he's down here. Like he's just not good anymore. It's very rare because you want to either play a 1-drop that moves, lockdown. There's too many ways to get into cards nowadays. And the move cards that exist do more than what he does. I don't want to say skip him because he's Jeff, but he's right down there with Doom 2099. Like he might be like right here on the edge, but I feel distasteful putting him in the bottom tier because it's Jeff. I mean, he's adorable. Joaquin Torres. I'm gonna get some hate for this one, and I'm okay with it because there are some decks that make Joaquin Torres really, really good. But in my opinion, you absolutely do not need this card in any way, shape, or form. Really don't. You really don't need this card. It does not do enough. Like if this worked as working for 1-drops and 2-drops, shoots it way up the rank, like way up the ranking. But as long as he's just 1-drops, he's way too niche. Way too niche. Kahori, very reliably a winner. Very reliably a winner. I think that she's a card that's almost as good as Galacta and Gwenpool. Like, some would probably put her as a smart buy, but I don't have her there quite yet. There's a little too much condition to make her really good. So the right deck works, but it has to be the right deck. Gwenpool, you can plug into anything. Kahori has to be the right deck to be better than Gwenpool. That's why she goes down a tier. Now, Kang got completely reworked. He's now a 3 cost that puts all those duplicate Kangs in your deck with the extra. It's like, it's such a wild world that I think Kang decks are honestly their own archetype nowadays. It's too much if you put it into Arishem decks for the Monty style, in my opinion, and it just, gets submerged. But if you're doing a Surfer build, it's less efficient. But if you're playing Kang, chances are you're trying to cheapen the Kang with things like Quinjet, and then you're building around what the extra cards of Kang do. In my opinion, I think that makes Kang his own archetype. Hawkeye Kate Bishop, must own. I think it's one of the most flexible cards in the game. You can plug it into almost any deck, no downside, kind of a win-win-win-win-win, right? Kind of a win-win-win. Khonshu, okay, now Khonshu's tough because you start at minimum of archetype specialist. However, when you do play a Khonshu deck, in my opinion, I think that it's up here with the Bullseye style of discard, where it's a definition card, and the second it does good things. And typically the revival from a Khonshu deck, if it's built to work properly, keywording, it's going to win more often than not. It's consistent, absolutely consistent. Luna Snow, I still can't believe they haven't nerfed her, to be straight honest. I still can't believe they haven't nerfed her back down to 3-5 because no one played her at 3-5. They moved her to 3-6 and she became an incredibly valuable card. I think it's a plug and play style card. Everybody wants more energy. You've got clog elements. Yes, it's 2-sided, but if you're playing a Luna Snow deck anyway, you're probably accommodating for it the same way you would Wave. And I don't think the difference between Wave and Luna Snow justifies Luna Snow's extra power. So either way, while she's at 3-6, absolute must own. Madam Web. This is an archetype specialist to me because the type of move deck you run really is dependent on do you have Madam Web or not. If you have Madam Web, your options triple for move decks. Minimum. They're really, 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 really solid the second you have this. I don't know. That's how I look at it, at least. It's an absolute slaughter fest when you don't have it compared to when you do. Okay. Makari. Makari's interesting here because the decks that run Makari, there's a couple of things you're looking at, right? You're looking at, is Stardust relevant? What decks are running her? It's a lot of hand thinning, automatic free play. I think it's a little bit dependent, and she can absolutely screw you over too. I kind of think she's down here. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Malekith, because the only times you play Malekith are when you can play a 1, 2, or 3 drop out of order and it's irrelevant. But it very often is also the first card you cut from a deck when you need to make room from another one. So I'm gonna think it's a matchup. Marvel Boy for now is gonna go into archetypes. I think it's good. It's pretty good. You build your 1-drops, whether it's a Zoo deck or a Clea deck, you're building with Marvel Boy in mind. You know what I mean? Merlin, absolute top tier right now. Still a card that I think it's underplayed, personally. I think he's absolutely underplayed still. Like, he should be probably the most played card in the game, but he's not. Misery. I still can't believe they made Misery a 4/9. I really can't. I think it's such a strong card, and it doesn't require too much else to be good. Because there are so many cards that benefit from going off a second time that you don't need to have repeated, and it's not just the hood. So I think that this is a worthwhile investment card that if you're going to have it, it opens up a lot of deck flexibility. Pause. Mockingbird, another one. I think that it's a must buy. Sorry, it's a smart buy. Must buy. Must own smart buy. Must own smart buy. I think it's a smart buy. I think a lot of tokens end up in this game. There's a lot of reduction that happens in this game. And sure, there are metas that don't like Mockingbird because then it's a Mobius meta. But even still, the second that you sense it disappearing, this is a card you throw into those decks. 100%. Moonstone. This is a reliable winner in my opinion. I think reliable winner is fair because if you get it to do its thing, it wins, plain and simple. You're throwing it on a lane that's rocking something like the unpredictability of Captain Carter's output. You're throwing that in there, right? Captain Carter, though being a specialist, Moonstone takes it over the edge. Throwing it into discard, throwing it into Tribunal, throwing it into the new versions of the Hands deck, like with Mr. Fantastic. It's a very good card. You get it down, chances are it's going to do crazy things. Morgan Le Fay. Oh, Morgan. This is another card that I'd love to see up here as an archetype specialist. Like, you build a Morgan Le Fay deck to be an awesome Morgan Le Fay deck, but it's just not there. I can't explain what it is. I don't know if it's the cost, but it just has never felt like it hit its stride. And the one time we saw it do well was in the Golden Gauntlet because it had the right matchups in the right meta. And then everybody who tried it just stunk. And the win rate was like 48%. So it's not, yeah, it's unreliable. It's not consistent enough. So if you're building a Morgan Le Fay deck, you're having a good time with the understanding that it's a Morgan Le Fay deck. Nomura is very similar, but I do think a little better because the output of a Nomura deck is way higher than the output of a Morgan Le Fay deck. Way higher. You build like to that degree, but I don't think it's anywhere near as good as any of the other decks in that row. So I think that this is a patch dependent one. Nico, absolute must own. Absolute must own. I think that Nico is just, it's the most flexible, probably the most flexible card in the game because you can literally throw it into any deck. That's why it's a must own. That's why it deserves top tier. It's awesome. Nightmare. Okay, so here's a hot take with this one too. I think Nightmare is still overhyped. You know, if you're gonna run a Sauron style deck or a deck that's converting, you know, those big cards with downsides into cards with upsides, I still think that Nightmare is too expensive to doing that. I think Nightmare should be like Pixie, and I would not mind seeing Nightmare at 2 -1. Like, bring back the -1 piece about him that the devs were so worried about. But as of right now, you're building a Nightmare deck, and that's for fun. But if you build what we'll call a Sauron deck, it's much better. So that's why I think he's a fun flare rather than an archetype specialist himself. Nocturne. See, this is a tough one. I want to say it's a smart buy, but it still underperforms with the location change because it can bite you in the butt. So I'm just going to put it as a reliable winner because it does have that flexibility. Actually, no. I literally said contradicting my own self as a reliable winner because it can bite you in the butt. I think it's a matchup card. I think you throw it in when you need to, when you know what you're going up against and if location control is a necessary option and you're running like a Surfer build and you don't want to run Storm. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what you're doing here. Penny Parker. This is another one that I'd like to say is a for fun card. It really is. I want to say it's a for fun card, but it's still bad. It's still bad. And I'm still on the train of Penny Parker being a 1-cost card. That makes it 2-cost SPDR. We thought it was going to be like game breaking for, what do you call it? For Wiccan decks, because you have Quicksilver on 1, Penny Parker guaranteed 2 into 3. Yeah, no, it still feels bad. It's not enough power. It's not enough benefit. I think that Penny Parker deserves some love. I just don't think it's a good card yet. I just don't. Prodigy. The journey Prodigy has been on the last few months is insane. This went from being a meh card to all the way up here. I'm gonna call it a, oh man, is it smart buy? I think it's a smart buy because it's not necessary in those decks, but they really do push the limit of what those decks want to do. You know, whether it's a first steps deck, horde deck nowadays, and then throw it into any other kind of, you know, scaling piece. If you are looking to build a deck, you're probably throwing these in first, these in second. You know what I mean? Like, he's really good and you can make that argument, but I'm putting him as a smart buy because he is a little dependent. Proxima. This is a matchup card to me, because not all discard decks need to have Proxima Midnight. It does depend on the meta. Is Stardust relevant or not? When you get it to do the thing, it's great, but it really depends on that one specific card. If this is a meta that has Stardust in it, you'd never play Proxima in discard. That's why it's a matchup card. Red Guardian. That's all I have to say. Just, I think he's a smart buy. When he was at 3/3, he was a must-own. But as a 3/2, he's a smart buy. I think that he's a card that you want to have in your collection. He's a cheaper version of Cosmic Ghost Rider. You know, I think he's very good. He's just fallen off a tad. He's still getting cut. So I'm gonna put him in smart buy. Did I not put Cosmic Ghost Rider here? All right, so for me, that was a reminder that I didn't upload all of the new cards. So we'll do those last. It's kind of cool seeing the adjustments and then going from there. Red Hulk. I think Red Hulk is okay, but Gore very often ends up being better. And you kind of go in between those two for those cards. Like your big sixes, these are the ones you think about. Okay. Red Wing. This is another for fun card. I think that you build a Red Wing deck because you build a Red Wing deck. Cool, great, awesome. You did the thing, but Drac Dump without Red Wing is still good. It's a flare piece, but not necessary. Rocket and Groot. This is another Fall from Grace card. I think that people are sleeping on the power of Rocket Raccoon, but as of right now, he's fallen way off, like way off. He was a smart buy. I'd probably keep him down here just because the targeting that comes with the card has gotten a lot more unpredictable. So at least in the game right now, a lot of cards are entering the board that are not played, and the targeting of the card is the toughest part. So I think Rocket of Groot is good, but not 911 must need to have. Sage, this is a smart buy. It's just an incredibly powerful 3-drop that can go into a billion different things. Whether you're playing a negative version, you're doing ongoing, I mean, stuff with Wong and making Chaos rain, and yeah, you've got some options, but I mean, it's not a must-own because there's a lot of strong 3-drops, but it's just like Cassandra Nova, and you kind of pick and choose depending on the meta and the matchup in that moment of who's better. Hunger is a Series 4. Sam Wilson, Captain America. Must have. Like, this is a must-own, absolutely insanely beautiful card, still incredibly strong, helping to protect cards, priority movement, very, very strong card, performs incredibly well in so many different decks. Yeah, I mean, it's just a win-win scenario there. Scarlet Spider is an interesting one because there recently was like this resurgence of Scarlet Spider decks, just a little resurgence of Scarlet Spider, but I don't feel like it was truly fantastic. It justified itself for a period of time, and that was it. So I'm gonna say it's really dependent on the patch because it can be very good, but it isn't a flavor for fun card. It's a, does this work right now card? Does it? Cool. Can we really make it great? Awesome. Scorn, if you play discard, this is another one up here. And the more I look at Khonshu, Bullseye, all those shenanigans, I honestly think Scorn is a smart buy at this point because it's probably the card that took discard over the edge, similarly to what X23 did on her premiere, and just made the deck actually competitive. The amount of extra power, the amount of extra discards that card alone can do, better than what Wolverine ever could do. Absolutely fantastic. I think it's a smart buy. Scream. I'd love to say this is a reliable winner still, but I think it's just a standard archetype deck. Archetype specialist. It's a good card. You build around it, but you can also play a Scream deck without Scream and win, you know? It's always a good option. Yeah. but it's not always a needed option. Just like Dormammu, just like Galactus, just like Hyde. Cersei. This is a for fun card. I still think that Cersei is too crazy because you have so much variance in there. Like, I would love to see a Cersei that guaranteed you would never go down in power after the transformation. So if you're transforming, let's say it was a 3/4, you could never turn it into a Shang-Chi because the 3 power is less than the original 4. Like that would, I would have less power on Cersei to do that. I would love to see that for Cersei. I think it'd be a lot more fun because there's just a tad bit more control. Not much, just a tad. Silver Sable, still an incredibly good card. I think this is a smart buy. This is a 1-cost card you kind of plug into a billion different decks as well. It doesn't have to be a bounce card, but it could be. Can be an affliction card. Can just be a straight up 1/4. That's why Bob is better, because it's a guaranteed 1/4. But it can be a 1/4 up as is, with higher ceilings. Speed has like 2 homes, and that's it. It has a Wiccan home, and then sometimes a Moonstone home, and that's kind of it. But I see a lot of it get cut, so I think that this is a matchup card. It is reliable, yes, but it's also being cut quite often. So I'm gonna have to keep it in matchup for now. I want it to be better, and you can argue that it's a reliable winner. Just think that it constantly falls off. Starbrand. This is a unique one. This is a really unique one because it only has 2 homes, you know? I'm gonna put him in matchup because he's not patch dependent, but he is deck dependent. You know, he's still a 3/10, don't get me wrong, but you are playing around him. You're playing for the understanding that he's going to potentially screw you, or he's going to be the best card in the deck. And not every meta is ready for Starbrand. So I'm gonna put him in my matchup. Strange Supreme, he's an archetype in my opinion, because every deck that wants to play Strange Supreme has 2 versions of the deck with Strange Supreme, right? You have the Strange Supreme deck of Thanos, and then the non-Strange Supreme deck of Thanos, as an example. I think that makes him unique enough where you have to pay attention to him. And you can kind of build around him, sorta. Yeah, I'll keep him an archetype for now. Surge, must own. Surge, as a 2/1 even, is an incredibly strong card. You still throw it into a bunch of decks. The amount of extra oomph that your deck gets because you play this on 2, you're always considering it. Therefore, it's a must own. Surtur, this goes right above where Starbrand is. This goes into archetype because you build a Surtur deck. You build a deck that's going to have all of the 10 power cards and more. That's more of a home than Starbrand. Symbiote Spider-Man has gone up in value, definitely. I don't think he's a for fun card anymore. I think you do consider this card quite often now. I'm gonna put him in patch dependent because he's getting better. More and more people are playing more and more 4-cost activates. We're having one release later today, even at the time of recording this. So I think it's good. And in the decks where he does the thing you need him to do, it's crazy good, which is exactly what these cards basically do. Thaddeus, Ken, I'm sorry, I still think he's a skip. I know he can get Infinite into your hand, but you're relying too much on your opponent for the amount of power that he plays out. Like, as a 2/2, just not good. Sorry, he's just not good. Thanos, I'd love to say is a reliable winner, but he's still not there quite yet. But I would not be surprised to see Thanos decks start to rise over the next couple of seasons as people re-adventure into the power of the stones. Ancient One, I think, is a patch dependent card because Ancient One decks need the cheat. They need to not worry about Enchantress. They need to know that they're gonna execute appropriately. And if the meta presents too much of a counterplay to it right away, it just kind of like, it's a feel bad card because you need time to set up the things that you want to do. Yeah, I think patch dependent makes more sense. Thena. I think Thena is going to have to go into reliable winner because you still are playing around the card. And yes, I know in the Invisible Woman First Steps deck, it can be an absolute game changer, but in every other deck, it's just a good card. It's reliable. You know what it's going to do. You have control over it. It's a reliable winner. Toxin, when you're talking about what does Toxin do for bounce? I don't think it's what brings Bounce over the edge yet, so I'm gonna put it in the same wheelhouse and the same mentality as Starbrand. If you're a Bounce player, he's a must-have. I mean, that's just a no-brainer at that point, but for every other player in their collection, it depends on if you're playing that deck or not, and you have to factor that weight into it. US Agent. I think that this is a patch-dependent card, because US Agent's really good. Let me be very clear here. I think this is going to be the best card in this rank, but so much small ball exists that this card very often gets skipped over because it's not needed to combat all of the other things that are happening, as of right now at least. Victoria Hand. Okay, so yes, in theory, it's an archetype specialist, but I do think that it is better than that. I think Victoria Hand can make an argument to be a reliable winner and possibly make an argument to be a smart buy. But I'm gonna stick to reliable winner in the same wheelhouse as Agamotto. I think that it's a really good card, a really good archetype, but also has the flexibility to be just a package. So I'm gonna put it as a reliable winner. War Machine. This is another one that, you know, comes and goes. We see it in waves with the big chaos. I think that right now it's a patch card. You know, if it's the right meta to play a War Machine deck, cool, have fun. But I think that we overrate War Machine decks very often, and I don't think it's as good as we make it out to be, minus the ability to play Infinite. Like, take out the Infinite, what does this card actually do? Exactly. White Widow. Dear God, does White Widow need love? White Widow needs a lot of love. Another card that used to be a top row card as a must-own. Absolute disgusting what's happened to it, and it makes no sense anymore. Wiccan is probably a smart buy. The reason I'm not going to put it in must-own is because it's not necessary and it's not plug and play. But the decks in which you can finagle a Wiccan package into them do automatically get better. Absolutely, all of them get better. But I think Smart Buy is a safe play right now. Zorn. This is a fun card. Zorn is just one of those, like, it is what it is cards. Just it is what it is. Excuse me. I think we also underplay Zorn a little bit. I think Zorn is better defensively than we give it credit for. We just haven't experimented with it enough. Give it some time. All right, now we're into the new cards since the last tier list. Oh boy. Oh boy. Now knowing what we've got. Wait a minute. These are series 4. Did I upload? I think I uploaded too many cards into this image. So ignoring the first 5 cards here because I uploaded too many, looking at Warlock. Even with the buff to 3/4, you're not playing a lot of Warlock decks, but you are building a Warlock deck to be a Warlock deck. Like, you're truly building a bunch of them there. I think he's a good archetype in and of himself. Viv Vision. This, I mean, as a season pass card, and we had a lot of time and exposure to it, I wanted it to be up here, but it just never felt good. It just felt meh. And if you're doing Viv Vision things, reconsidering the entire deck, in my opinion. I think that Viv Vision is just a for fun card. I don't think it's a card you need to target. It doesn't add enough value to a deck that makes you go, this is good. At the time of recording this, Zombie Scarlet Witch is the season pass. She's not on here, but I would say that Zombie Scarlet Witch probably ends up as archetype specialist because of the Horde. Just throwing that out there in there too. Fallen One. This is another for fun card. Like, I don't think it's a necessary card. You're really not. Like, the Fallen One is one of these cards that, similar to Warlock, you build around. However, you build a Warlock deck to be a Warlock deck. You build a Fallen One deck into other decks. So there's a big difference there. Stardust. Stardust is shooting up here, and I'm just debating, is it a must-own or is it a smart buy? And I'm thinking it has to be a must-own because it's such a critical piece of tech, and we've even talked about it several times already today, that it controls so many metas all by itself that you need to kind of regularly think about it. So I'm gonna keep Stardust in the must-own category. Zombie Mr. Fantastic, who came out the week in which we recorded this. Honestly, I think we're all sleeping on him. And by the time people watch this video over the next couple of weeks, people are going to realize that he's up here. And that's my bold call of the day. I think Zombie Mr. Fantastic is much better than people give him credit for. And as we get more and more cards that create more and more cards, we'll come to realize how good a 2/8 truly is. I would rank him over Zombie Scarlet Witch because he's more universal versus the Horde build. Jocasta. This is another one that's going to end up here somewhere. It's probably an archetype specialist because you're doing all end of turn things twice. You're building an end of turn deck and you're making Jocasta do double things. But it can also just be a small package. I think we leave it as an archetype card. It's less plug and playable for those reasons, but it's pretty like it's either here or here. While we have the activates we do, I'm gonna keep Jocasta down here, but I would not be surprised if by the next tier list it's a reliable winner. Moira. Moira is an archetype card as well. I think that you build a Moira deck. You don't build a destroy deck, you build a Moira deck, which is a whole nother build, right? It's just like Headpool, except that Headpool is better. I think that Headpool for Destroy is more reliable and more consistent than Moira X. I'm going to put it in the reliable winners category. I think that it's an incredibly valuable card. Sparky. This one's tough because I really like this card. Really like this card. It's a better Aranya. I think you go with archetype. And the reason being is because you're factoring what Sparky does more often to be benefiting your combo rather than a defensive move. The fact that it's moved back rather than proactively move somewhere else. For example, Aranya, you could use technically in any deck to move into a dead right lane. You know, it's been stormed off, for example. Sparky, you're building combinations to make the Sparky stuff happen. Thing for steps. I think this is probably just another straight up reliable card. I think it's a good power. It's a lane winner more often than not. Are less forecasted on it than I think people realize, where you just think about, okay, big card does big thing, and then they forget the power of, oh, this is a 5/10 that just destroyed a 7. You know, it's a very strong card. So I'm gonna keep it in reliable. Frankie Ray Nova. No, sorry. I'm not a fan. I think Frankie Ray, it was too many hoops to jump through for not enough benefit. The card's exciting when you get it to do the crazy stuff, but it takes way too much work to get the benefit, and it's very niche work to get the benefit. So I think Frankie's a skip. Mr. Fantastic First Steps. This is probably a smart buy. It's probably a smart buy, and I'm just looking at it in comparison to all the others and trying to debate, does it justify itself over all of these, or is it on par with all of these? And I think it's actually on par, because I would almost always take a Red Guardian, a Sage, a Gwenpool, a Castnova over Mr. Fantastic First Steps. Because when you do play him, he's still good, but you very often replace him for incredibly valuable 3s in the deck. You know what I mean? As a 2 cost, he was busted. As a 3 cost, he needs some help. Invisible Woman, First Steps. She opens up an entire archetype all in and of herself. Even at 3/3, she's just busted. She's still busted. As long as she's a 3 cost card, she's probably one of the better buys right now. And you build that deck specifically. You don't need Jocasta to make Invisible Woman First Steps good. I think that she is worthwhile, but you have to have the other pieces to make her work. Cosmic Ghost Rider, as a 5/7, is one of the top 5 cards of the game right now, and probably will be for a while, because Cosmic Ghost Rider is kind of like the ultimate I need protection card, help me. And we see metas that ebb and flow, that used to ebb and flow around, like it's a Cosmo meta, it's an Enchantress meta, it's a Red Guardian meta, etc. You don't have to worry about any of that. You just play Cosmic Ghost Rider and just kind of like screws it all up. And the difference between Red Guardian and Cosmic Ghost Rider is leaps and bounds, because you get a decent body at 5/7 versus the total 3/4 of Red Guardian. And it hits multiple cards and can undo so much more power because of it. I think that's Cosmic Ghost Rider is definitely a top 5 card in the game right now. Bastion. Every deck that plays Bastion doesn't need Bastion. But if you get Bastion to do the thing, it's a snap. Like, it's a fun piece. Great in Victoria hand, great in discard. In Cerebro 3, it's unnecessary, but it's fun. Jim Hammond, Human Torch. I don't know what could ever make this card truly better with the energy floating. I'm just debating, is it a skip or is it for fun? Because, like, there's so much extra energy that happens in this game. And yes, there's little pieces. Like, if it couldn't be reduced, it would be a much better card. But it could be Killmongered, it could be Electroed, it could be Shadow Kinged, it can be everything. It just has too much going against it. So I think both little fireballs need to go away. Galactus First Steps. This, in my opinion, was the surprise season pass that kind of creeped up on everybody, where we're all like, okay, it's good. Okay, it's good. It's a good 6 drop. Okay, it's good. Throw it in. Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay. And then it just seemed like out of nowhere, we all came to this unofficial, quiet conclusion of need a 6-drop, play Galactus First Steps. It took the place of Gore and Red Hulk and is now the piece that competes with Goliath as the 6-drop of choice. It just out of nowhere grew in popularity quiet. Just realized that still says July up there. Lastly is Colonel America in here. And I think Colonel America is very good. For discard, I think it is incredibly powerful, surprising to people. But again, at least not yet. At least not yet. I have not seen the consistency in the build to feel differently. But as of right now, I think Colonel America is an option. It's a strong option, but it's an option. Really does perform well in the archetype in which it does. But I think the only reason that he's not ranking higher at the moment is because we're seeing more archetypes do better than what discard with Colonel America brings to the table, point-wise. But I don't think that that's the right way to look at him. I think the right way to look at him is that he's so easily in micro discard decks at minimum 3/9, which is solid. And in Hela too, incredibly solid card to drop. I want to put him higher. I can't justify it yet. And like I said, ignore these. This is just too many uploads from earlier. But looking at this again, and again, these are only in alphabetical order, minus the last couple that I'll just, these are the new pieces that have been added since the last tier list. If they're a slightly larger image, all the others are just repositioned from the last tier list to their new homes in this tier list. Let's see here. Does anything look truly out of place? Excuse me. I think Clea looks out of place. I think Clea is a little too high. Probably Scarlet Spider too. I wouldn't mind seeing Scarlet Spider at 4/6. And I'd be okay with that. Yeah, this top row here, is Cap still Sam still like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna put these in like top to bottom order. I'm just putting these as categories. Smaller images are prior to July, larger images are post July, and they're at the end of the rows. So all the new cards are at the end of the lists. End of the category of each. End of the row of each category. Like you see Toxin versus Colonel America. Yeah, I'm really happy with that, actually. Looking at it quickly, I'm very happy with that. It feels right, especially this bottom row here. And all of them are probably very close to being playable with very micro tweaking. Little pieces to fix it up. I think it's a good starting point. It's a good starting point to say that this is, as of right now, an overall general feeling of all of Marvel Snap in October 2025. This is a great starting point. If you're trying to figure out how to use your tokens, that's really what it comes down to. It's all about how do you use your tokens. If you went from the top down and bought everything in the must-owns, then everything in the smart buys, then everything in the then I feel like you're in a really good position. You're setting up a great collection at that point. And I feel really solid with that. So I'm gonna call it done. I'll call it done. If you liked this, you know what to do. Like and subscribe down below. Also keep an eye on there being a Series 4 tier list for all of those cards, whether you're using for 2,000, 2,500, or 3,000 collector's tokens to get them. Because some of the Series 4s are surprising. And some of the Series 4s are bad.